for the month of February, Arbortech is putting out a power carving wood challenge where you have to use either 2x4s or plywood to make something that requires carving or power carving. And I was thinking about what I could do to enter this contest, and it reminded me of this book that I received a couple of years ago from Behance. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that website, but it's the Behance Book of Creative Work, and there's one page in here that I thought was exceptionally beautiful. There's a lot of really cool ideas in this book. I mean, from wood to paper to illustrations, it really is a neat book. Where is that? Yeah, here it is. Here it is. I don't know how well you can see this, but I'll try and get it on camera closer so that you can see it on screen. But a couple of artists in France created these basically looking like dripping wood frames. The frame is still intact enough where you can recognize it, but this is all carved wood. Even all this here. It's just really, really beautiful. The attribution to it, Bonsoir Paris. I'll put the link down there. And Adrian Coroller, I'm sorry for mispronouncing that. I'm gonna put both those links down there so you can go check those collections out. When I saw these images for the first time, I fell in love with them and I wanted to make my own version of these. Now with this power carving challenge, I thought this could be a good opportunity to try and recreate something like this out of a material that's expendable, let's say, not very expensive, and do some prototyping so that if I want to try something more elegant in the future with a hardwood or better hardwood, that I have some knowledge about how to do it. So my goal here is to try and recreate something like this for the power carving challenge. We'll see how close we get. So the process that I'm going to try and do is this. The first thing is I'm going to just make a basic regular plywood frame. I have some 1/2-inch Baltic Birch sheets of plywood, and I'm going to make a basic frame, something that is not very intricate, just very, very simple, because I don't know how the dripping plywood is going to come and interplay with the regular frame quite yet. So I'm going to keep it very simple for the frame. Probably do 2 layers of plywood, so it'll be about 1 inch thick roughly, all said and done. And then after the frame is complete and is functional as a frame per se, I'm going to probably cut parts of it out and put in bigger pieces of plywood, chunks of plywood, so that I can start carving out the dripping parts of that sculpture, that figure. And hopefully, however we're gonna do this, I'm not totally sure yet. When the 2 parts come together, I'm hoping that I can get a structure that is roughed out in plywood, the frame being one part, the dripping part being the next. Put them together, attach them together, and then start carving out the dripping sections, maybe molding into the frame a little bit so that it all is very cohesive at the end. As of right now, I don't have any other real plan of attack other than start with the frame, get that established and built, and then move on to the dripping part and figure out how I want to do that, how many pieces I need for it, and then start carving and see where we end up. So first things first, we're going to get the frame going. So I have my pieces cut for the frame. These over here are 3 inches. These are 3 inches, and these are 2 3/4. And what that allows me to do is glue these together. And then when I do that, I'll be left with a rabbet that'll be on the back side of the frame. So if I ever wanted to put artwork in here, glass and a mat, I have that built in the back of the frame already, so I don't have to do it later. On to glue next. Okay, the frame is all glued up. I've only glued it in these 3 corners for right now. This part is still flexible, so I have some room to kind of move around here later. The next step is to sand this to a pretty high grade finish because I don't know how well I'll be able to get in here later to do some sanding and polishing. So I want to get this up to a pretty high grit now. And then I'm going to start cutting plywood pieces and figuring out where I want to add those in so I can carve those down later. Also, I made this section longer and all one piece because this is the piece I want to be able to go down to the floor and have this kind of supported by the floor. So I figured making this all as one piece would be a lot stronger and a lot easier. So sanding up next. Okay, this is where I ended up with all the glued pieces on the frame. I could probably do more in certain places, but I'm not totally sure what the next step is here in terms of carving. So I'm gonna pause here and work with what I got in place. I've got a big enough footer down here for it to rest on the floor, I think. And some pieces here and here that I want to try and carve out and make it look kind of melty, like the inspiration piece. Other than that, I don't have any other plan but just to get the carving tools out and start tackling this thing. So let's do it. I have been having a blast working on this. It has been so much fun to carve this thing out, especially with the angle grinder. It has worked really well. So I'm really happy with where I'm at. One thing that I'm realizing about my interpretation of the original inspiration piece is that I don't have enough 3D depth that I would like, meaning that I should have added more extra plywood on top of the frame, and that would have given me more ability to get in there and make deeper crevices and recessions and really play with the 3D space front to back. You can kind of see on the table over here right now that the basically 2 layers of plywood that I had on most of it, you can kind of see that dimension throughout the frame and the supporting piece, which is working. What I've got going here works, but I think I can make it a lot better next time. So a lot of things learned in this prototype, and when I do the real thing with a nice hardwood, it should be really, really beautiful, and I'm looking forward to it. However, It is currently Tuesday, and the deadline for entry for the challenge is Thursday. So I need to wrap this up. I need to do some fine hand sanding on this whole thing and get it really smooth and get it ready for a finish. I'm really happy Arbortech put this challenge out to makers. If they hadn't, I would have taken this on right away. And now that I have, I've got more knowledge about what I want to do better next time, which is all I can ask for. So let's wrap this one up and see how it turns out. Couple final thoughts from me. For finish, I did 4 applications of spray polyurethane with a light sanding in between each one, and this is how it turned out. I like it. It was a lot of fun. So thank you, Arbortech, for putting this challenge out. It was a real fun experience for me, and thanks to you for also watching the video. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, please do. I really appreciate it.